Sure.
Thank you. All right, welcome to this session. This is Intro to Microservices of a Domino use case. We'll be more focused on Spring Boot and other ways to work, kind of stepping out of the yellow sphere a little bit. I'm sure everyone on the call is a veteran in Domino. I think we're all like been around for a while. So let's get started. So I want to thank our sponsors for year after year supporting this community and providing great services to all the customers out there. So about me, started working with Domino at version 4.5. I jumped into the X Pages. I went down the X Pages path because I thought that was a really good server-side web application framework, and I thought it was a lot better than building websites with Lotus script and notes, forms, and views, while the whole world was using progressive other web solutions. So I've been around the Notes platform for a while. I love X Pages, still do. But currently I'm focused on microservices with Spring Boot in the healthcare industry. And X Pages helped me make a career change with Java into Spring Boot. So I've worked with really cool projects that I would never see in the Domino world, like GE's command center for hospitals and things like that. So I want to thank X Pages a lot and the community to help support X Pages and help us grow with Java. So on the agenda, I'm going to start with what is a microservice, but I'm not going to go too crazy into this and plagiarize stuff on the internet. You can go do your own reading, a lot of content out there, but I'm going to give you a quick thing of what I think microservices are from my readings. So in simplest terms, is breaking up an application into many smaller services, which are mini applications, focused on a part of the solution. So each microservice is specific to that solution. So if you took it out of there, it wouldn't make sense to another application or another service on the internet to call your service because it would be useless. It's really taking a monolithic application that has a lot of features and breaking those features out into smaller programs and having contracts in between those programs. So analogy to Domino's, you could think of NSF databases that call each other for lookups. So that's a good practice to do. So this is kind of the same thing here. You break up the application. The difference is that each of these are their own server. So if the server goes down, you could have another instance someplace else that comes up. It's not hosting a lot of applications, it's just hosting that one service. And then each service registers itself into a service registry for discovery purposes. So each of your services have like this phone directory of, hey, I know how to update Domino. So another service may need that and it can find it and call it. They're built to fail. I think you've seen some of this with Netflix. If Netflix is working, it comes up, you never get a Netflix is down message. That's because there's a microservice that gives you the home page with some static information. And then if you try to click on the video, that microservice may not have the access to the video yet, right? It will spin, but other videos may work. So that's the beauty of microservices. Someone could be making updates into one portion of the application. You can get a message saying, well, the update service is down right now. Try again in 10 minutes, right? The benefits are risk, whenever you change a software, there's a risk that you're going to break something. And that risk gets bigger the more change you make to software, the higher risk of change there is. It gets more complex, more unstable, the more changes you make. That's the nature of software. So microservices helps in that way, where it helps you scale horizontally, build and deploy faster because you're working with small pieces of code. So I'm going to move on to what is Spring Boot. So Spring Boot is a framework. It's part of a framework. There's a big ecosystem out there, and it's all free, 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 free. No business partners, no licensing payments. You just download it and it just works. You get this boilerplate application, and it can be deployed anywhere, in any cloud, Docker. It's all awesome. Documentation is great. It's all up to date. The tools are amazing. If I was going to explain my experience with Spring, it's like going into a 5-star hotel where they thought of every possible experience you would have in their framework and environment, from the IDE, documentation, understanding, community access. They make sure that you are successful. And this is where I just discovered there is a UX experience for developers. It's like, how do I get into this and not trip on myself, like with hidden notes INI file settings and stuff like that. So it's all based on Java. You can use Spring Boot to build command line applications. So maybe you want to interface with your Domino Data with command line. You can do that. And your command line application is your UI, right? You can call your microservices. They can pull data out of a notes database and display a grid in text form. Command line is really popular these days. You could create a console application for your app, right? So users can get information out. It can be a web app. It can be a web app with a UI. It can be a web app with just microservices, which are REST endpoints. And when the application starts, it's kind of like X pages, where you have this like context of the application where all your managed beans are loaded. Same thing here. It has an application context. All the beans are loaded into this context. There's a life cycle when the application starts. It scans your whole Java package. You can also manipulate anything you want in Spring. You can say, I don't want to scan the Hibernate package or the Jackson package, because you know that those packages are releases. They do their own testing. There's no point for you to scan those, but you can focus on your custom code. And it's popular, and I want to state it again, because the user experience is awesome for developers. I'm not talking about UI. I'm talking about like the IDE tells you what's wrong. Everything is available to you, and it's like a red carpet to me. So the Spring Boot lifecycle, it starts with the main class. So you have a Java class that has a main, right? And then that main class will launch the Spring application. And then what's interesting here is the application launches the Tomcat application server. And then it sets everything up. It gets the websites ready, and it's up. The difference between like Domino or WebSphere or those other application servers is you have the application server first you have to bring up, right? That requires an admin, some knowledge about that application server. This is kind of flipped. It's like, no, we're just going to do a command line, and this application server starts, and it's set up by code, and it just runs. So that's the difference there. So what happens is the application is scanned for annotations, and then Spring will build this container here. You see these objects of objects, and it will start creating singletons out of everything. And if you have other objects that are dependent on others, if it's in the container, it gets injected into your application. So the difference in X pages or JSF and other environments is you have to ask that container, hey, session scope, hey, application, so give me this bean. You ask for it. Over here, all you do is create a property in your Java class and you assume it's there. If it's not there, the application will not start. So that's the beauty behind Spring with the user experience. I don't have to, it cuts out a lot of boilerplate code. You could inject in runtime classes into the container. You could also pull them out if you want. So that's the Spring Boot lifecycle. Starts with a main method, starts your server application server for you, sets everything up, injects all the dependencies, and your application is ready to go. So you could build these applications, you know, through just code or text files, and then do Java jar and compile and all that. But why would you? There's a website called Spring Initializer where you tell it what you want and it'll build the project for you using the standards. So you do this for every microservice, and you just click download. And then what you do there is you start building your business stuff, right? Your business logic. Tons of courses out there in Udemy, Pluralsight, YouTube, Spring.io, LinkedIn Learning, Coursera. Lots of jobs out there in this field, right? All your X pages Java skills are relevant, easy, transferable, and it's a lot of fun because, like I said, there's like this red 5-star hotel red carpet treatment, right, for developers. It's really nice to work with. So Spring, you could do everything through like XML files. The nice thing about like the configuration. The nice thing about XML files is that it's not shown here in the slide, but I just want to touch on it. You could see like your entire application set up in one file. But what's really popular is using these annotations around your classes. So what these annotations do is, as you annotate your classes, Spring starts up and it says, oh, this is a component. Oh, this is going to be a REST controller. Well, I'm going to change you into a REST controller. You can have just a plain Java class and it changes it to a REST controller. Another powerful one is the repository one. So the repository annotation, that one will convert your Java class. This is going to be silly when I show it to you, and have all the find, all save, all delete, all the CRUD operations coded for you. You don't have to do any of that. All you do is create a repository and tell it what object you want to persist, and you're done. It's literally that simple. So those are class level. Then you have field levels. Auto-wired is Spring's a way of finding objects. Like you could have a customer and auto-wire it. Spring will find that customer object and inject it into your class. So in your methods inside your class, you use those. You could just access customer, it's there. Add value, you know how we go to resource bundle and pull out property values? Well, that's what add value does. You don't have to go ask for it. This platform or the framework does it for you. It goes out, you just tell it what property file you want or what value you want. It'll find it and put it into your Java class, into your property. A lot more stuff. JWT token handling, pre-authorize is checking user roles that came into your endpoint and validating them. So going on to the next thing, building a demo. Here's a demo of building a Lego set builder, right? So I'm going to demo you some of it. So let's get started on there. So let me get out of the presentation. Okay. Actually, I'm sorry. Let me get back here. Let me give you kind of what we're going to try to do. So the use case here is the problem is how many of us have bought Lego sets over the years and your kids are playing with them, and they end up in pieces in a toy box or a bin. So what do you do with all those sets, right? What belongs to what? The solution here is we want someone to take a full bin of Legos and pour it into a hopper. That's the ultimate solution. And it sorts it out and it tells you what Lego sets these pieces belong to, or how many Lego sets you can build with these pieces. And these are official Lego sets, not, it's not, it can't make up a Lego set, right? So it's looking at official Lego sets. What can I build with these pieces? So the challenge is you need a database of Lego parts, sets, and we need services for computations, query, and update from anywhere, right? So if we're going to do this solution, we need mobile devices, websites, endpoints. So how you start out with a project, I think, is having a use case and having a nice diagram to build an idea, right? So this is a really cool tool. It's called MindMeister. I don't know if you guys ever used this before, but it's a really quick way to build an idea. So what we're going to focus on is the microservices on the top upper left corner. On the storage side, you see I could go NoSQL or SQL. I could use Domino, Cassandra, Mongo. SQL, I could use DB2, SQL Server, any of those. My models are separate from the data storage. I want my models to kind of work with my microservices. So I don't care what storage you use. Same thing with the user interface. I don't want my models in my tightly coupled to my user interfaces. I want to be able to switch it out, because at the end, my IoT devices, the Arduino, Raspberry Pi, Amazon Alexa, I want them to be able to use those same models. I don't want to recreate the wheel. And if I make a change, it's in one place. And I want them to use those microservices. So that behavior is across all of these areas. Okay, so let's get into the demo. So first, let's look at demoing, importing into CSV into NSF. Just want to say I started this project October 19th. That's when I made the decision to do microservices for the community, because I thought, I wasn't sure how many people out there are using SpringBoot or even ventured out into it. So these are really simple demos. But I picked CSV because you can't import a CSV directly into a notes database. You could build a Lotus script agent or action to do that, but there's no file import CSV, right? At least in my notes client. So I built one in Java. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so here's the project. So here's my, I have 3 microservices now: import the app, an importer, a Domino update service, and a query service. So for this example, all I need to do is start this importer app. So I hit play here, or I could have hit play anywhere else. Now what's happening, Java's starting the main method. It's starting Spring, it's up and running. I have a Tomcat server. Everything's pre-configured in less than 30 seconds, okay? In 30 seconds, also I have, let me move this out of the way, it's in my way, this thing here. Okay, so this is the update, right? Let me see here. We're going to choose import CSV. In 30 seconds, I even have this nice web UI on my endpoints. I don't have to manually keep track of code changes and edit documentation. The Spring goes out and works with Swagger to build this for me. This is just free to me. Okay, so I'm going to import Domino CSV files. So let's look at the Domino NSF first. I'm working on a Mac. I only work in Windows through a VM now. I don't use a Windows computer anymore. Okay, so you see the database is empty, right? No data. So I'm going to go back here, and I'm just going to hit try out. So I'm going to import CSV. If I can hit execute, I can go back here. Here's my console. It's doing some work. I go back to my NSF, do a refresh, and there I got these files, properties. They're just created now, right? Pretty cool. All right, so let me go and delete those files. Here's another cool thing. Delete. One came in without me. All right, watch this. All right, there's a problem, right? Do you know how to get your Domino server in debug mode, and how dependable is it? I could just right click, rerun debug mode. Now this thing's going to start in debug mode. I don't have to set like the Notes INI Java debugger on, any of that. The nice thing about IntelliJ I'm using here, there's no such thing as a debugger perspective. You're just in debug mode. You're looking at your application. There's no like switching into debugger mode. All right, so I'm going to come back here. First thing, I make sure I have an endpoint in my controller, which I do. It's right here. Go back. Now I'm going to hit execute. I mean, it feels like when you work with Lotus scripts debugger, right? So here we go. Just hit step over, step over. I can step into here. What's nice here is the you have Java 8. It's so cool, like working with streams. So for each item now, I read all these part categories from the CSV file, right? And I put them in a list. Now I'm gonna just use for each some Lambda expression to send each one to a post request to my Domino server. So on the Domino side, I have DAS, REST API turned on. So that's how it communicates. So if I go in here, I'm making a REST call to my Domino server here using the REST template exchange to posting a document or posting a key value pairs, which is a document for each item. I can hit play. And it's going to do that for every single one of these. I could turn off breakpoints here. So I could go through my app and I'm done. So they're coming in. You see that? Really cool. Debugging is very easy. All right. Okay, now I want to build Lego parts, right? I want to query Domino. Okay, let's take a look at how we do that. So I have another endpoint to query Domino. There's my update controller. Search right here. This one. Cancel. So it didn't come up. Why is that? Because it's not turned on. Start running it. Up in 10 seconds. Now this one does a little more work. This one formats the data in a different way. Let me see what I can do here. Okay, So I'm going to do searching. So first of all, I need some Lego sets to search for. So this is part of a Star Wars set, right? I could find any set, right? So I just had to choose one. So let's look for this part, 3679. Okay, that goes, these two usually go together, something that spins in here. 3679. Sorry. There we go. 3679. 3679. I gotta click try out to enable this field. 3679. 3679. I hit execute. Oh wow, look at these. There's friends came up, Ewok attack, firefighter ship. Okay, I need more Lego parts, right? So let's pick something a little more unique. Have this 4445. Right, I'm looking through my Lego bin right now in my kids' room. 4445. Okay, we have some more. Still a lot. Wow, look at this. Okay, let's try to find another unique part. How about, let's say, let's try this glass window here, 6238. 6238. Okay, that's better. I'm down to 2 sets now. I have duplicates in my database. That's where these came up. But the Rebel Scout Speeder is what I'm after. And let me see if I have a window. That's my, these are my parts here. Let me just show you the, where I get this information from is a site called Rebrickable. And let's take a look at that. Says 7668. 7668, search. That's the Scout Speeder that I'm looking up here. And click here for the parts. Click here, view as HTML. And that's what I'm looking for, right? So that, I just want to let you know that's where I'm getting this information from. As far as for this test, but the data is in the notes database. All righty then. So I found this set. So going back here, here's another thing. I have a centralized config server. So the centralized config server, every one of these applications that start, the importer, the Lego update, the query data, they have a bootstrap properties file that tells it where my config server is. So if I start this up here, so I have my log levels to info, so it doesn't show the config server, but if I change my logger messages to be debug, then they will show up. But this is what's happening here. This is my config server right here. So the application's loading these settings from a config server, and the config server is looking at a GitHub repo. So I have here my property files, right? And then this is a GitHub repo. So what the server does is it comes here, it's configured to come here, and check out the develop branch, pull the latest from GitHub, and then give that to my application. So my application can be running, and I can change configurations. It's external from my application. I can have multiple copies of this, right, to do round robin. But it's externalized configuration. So that's what's happening there. The other thing I want to show you is here's the nodes database. It goes after these sets here, right? It's using DAS. What you can do here is you do Control A, Control C. This is kind of the data you're getting back. And you can go to a site called JSON to Pojo, Control A, Control V, and tell it, you know, your package name, Lego set request, or Lego Domino view, Java. It's JSON, not a schema. Schema has definitions, it's JSON. Spring uses Jackson. And then you hit preview. And now you have all your Java classes all ready for you and annotated to map the JSON properties to your properties in your files. And then you take this, and this is your model for that view or that database. It's really cool, really fast. You just, and there's a zip file you download. And that's, so you can start exposing your views through REST API, DAS, and then start coming here and build all your models, right? And then you're now building all these models inside your Spring Boot application. So let's get back to the presentation. Okay, so I kind of told you the steps I was taking. So first thing is to get organized, have everything written down. If you're working in a team, it's good to have a picture. That way everyone understands visually, and when everyone looks, that's your verification that everyone understands. Start with 3 buckets: the update service, the query data, and then services for a specific task. So if you had a notes database that submitted a form or whatever agent you have, or formula language, that's, they can all be different microservices. You can bundle them in, or you can consolidate them. But that's what you'll create all your other services for. What kind of thing you want to work alone, right? And not be dependent on other changes. Storage, you can use existing customers, use Domino NSF if you have them already. Domino agents continue to work. Domino agents do not care where that data came from. It just works on those documents. Creating microservice for each storage backend. So if you have a microservice for customer data, create a microservice for that. That way, if you ever had to move it or do some kind of maintenance, you're not affecting one or the other. Your models, once you start taking your business logic away from formulas, from JavaScript, you start building this your models, and that's all your models can be then shared across all your Java projects, including X pages. So your X pages will leverage and work with those data models just as the Android will, and just as Arduino or Raspberry Pi will, or Amazon Alexa, Salesforce. You want to extract that into a programming language like Java that's compiled and has quality checks. So we'll see what that means with the quality later. Supports versioning, source control, use any OS, use any IDE. So like I said, focus on your microservices first, provide these endpoints. So you start with a Maven multi-module project. That's the best way to do this. These all can be separate projects without modules, but keep everything in one place. It's a preference thing. I like multi-module projects. So the POM file, if you, Maven is a build tool. It stores, like, whenever it brings down dependency, it puts it into your M2 folder in your home drive. You have a .m2 folder, and all those Java libraries are there. And Maven handles adding those to your build path and getting your application ready. So maybe, and also the POM files work like cascading style sheets. You have your parent POM, which organizes your modules, and in the order they're listed here is the order that they're built. So I do my data model first. I should be doing my common next because common pulls in data model, but the import service needs Lego common, so common will be pulled in when it compiles import, and then common will then pull in Lego data model. So that's kind of similar with Lotus script and how you pull in libraries, the use command in Lotus script. And it's like cascading style sheets. Any module thereafter within your project will inherit all of those libraries and capabilities. And when you start creating your model, start creating packages. So for the CSV files that I'm importing, I have a CSV. It has a model. It's comma delimited. So I have Java objects to model those things. And then I have mappers to map those CSV files to whatever my application needs, right? So if you're working with vendors from Salesforce, from Lotus Notes, from DB2, from wherever, you should have like, what is a vendor to our company or to me, and provide that, and then have mappers to Salesforce, to Workday, to wherever. Your UI package would have your Java objects that mirror JSON, right? So if you get a request in through JSON, through your endpoints, that would be in your UI package, and then you want to transfer those to the CSV, to the Domino. The entity would be like your SQL databases. So this data model then is then portable, and you can put it in Android, you can put it in Next Pages, JSF. You can use it anywhere. You can update site, put it on your Domino server. Then you start with the common library. The common library will have your common methods. What you don't see here, I would have a functions package. Java functions are really cool. They are static in nature, and they are used with the new Java 8 streams, lambdas, parallel processing. They don't have dependency outside of their method. So if if you have business logic that says a vendor must be this type and the request came in, so you compare vendor with a request type, you can say if that function can say we could trust this vendor or not, or they're allowed to do something. So you'll create common functions here, and then this common will be used across all your projects. They don't have to be Spring Boot, any Java project, X Pages. Next, I would add health check monitoring and build information in your environment. It's very easy. You add this dependency to your POM file, you set up these properties, and then you get something like this with endpoints. You can use SolarWinds, Dynatrace, New Relic, whatever monitoring tools you have, even custom built things to read JSON or HTML. You can see that the system is up. The database that it's supposed to connect to is up. This space on the VM that was started, the container, the environment, what version of OpenJDK. You can find out what version of the application is running. I don't have all the endpoints here. There's a lot of cool endpoints here. What beans? This is like your context. What are all the beans loaded in your application? Swagger UI is what we use to send requests to the endpoints. It's really easy. You add a dependency. You see there's a common pattern. You add a dependency, and then you annotate and say enable Swagger 2. And now you magically have that capability. Centralized config server. You add a dependency that I want a config server. You configure the applications. You annotate enable config server. You tell it what port to run on. And you can deploy as many copies as you want. How do you tell a client to use that server, centralized config server? Well, you create a Bootstrap properties file with your application name in it. You start the application, and that's it. and then it will go look for it. So because these things are provided by the Spring framework, it already knows how to talk to each other. So the difference between a framework and a library is something you call and you use the capabilities in that library. A framework is different, where the framework calls your code. So you're telling this framework where to find the server, and the framework takes care of everything else. Because you use the framework to build the application, it already knows how it should access it, right? They thought of those things already. So we're almost at the end. So technology is used. So challenges I found with Domino. Domino's not designed to be a NoSQL storage to external systems. DAS is outdated. And now there's an app dev pack. I like to try Domino DB. That's new as well. But so was DAS when it first came out. So we'll see how much effort is put into Domino DB, if it's half-baked, if it's going to go anywhere. But there's challenges with DAS. So it doesn't support complex JSON schemas. So if I have a schema with a node that has departments and that node has employees, I can't save that into a node's database. I can only work with a document and a response document. I have to now figure out, how do I break up that JSON object into document and response documents? And then I got to figure out, okay, once I do that, I decouple all of that. How do I query it? How do I work with it? So that's the industry uses JSON. So and a lot of these Java objects already get serialized to JSON very easily. Now you have to deserialize them to something else. That's a challenge, right? Now you're kind of like a DBA for SQL. How do I break this up into tables, right? And relate them and have relational integrity and all that. DAS does not handle JSON schemas, like I said, only key value pairs. A new Domino V11 server is not installed to be used as a NoSQL storage solution. You have to turn on DAS. There's like all these steps to get it going. And I have in the next slide my recommendations on how to solve this stuff. The REST API uses Java vectors, so it doesn't do parallel processing. It doesn't have any of the Java 8+ features. There's no admin client, no command line client for Notes admin. It would be nice to be able to do that. That's what everyone does with the existing NoSQL databases. And you have to use a Windows PC. Notes Designer only works with Windows as well, and it's the only IDE, right? Unless you're real savvy like Jesse, and you could figure out how to use Eclipse and all that. It's not built for big data and large volume. We're talking about like 700 million records and big data. How do you get that into the Notes database? There's no JDBC driver. There's no REST API that can handle it. The data is non-structured. How do you get that in there? So data is the big data's right now what everybody wants. They want analytics and artificial intelligence from big data. So that's the big move to microservices, big data, and not having a monolithic application. Is they want artificial intelligence. They want to have good data science. So they are pushing for change. And there's also no integration to other ecosystems like .NET Core and Java. So there's some work that needs to be done in this area. So, but Domino does have potential. It has replication. This is great for microservices. I can run 10 instances of microservices, and they could be talking to 10 different Notes NSF files, and in the background, they can replicate with each other. That's cool. Document level security, view searching and indexing is cool, I think, and encryption as well. But not all, NoSQL databases are not built the same. JSON document storage is the best way to save complex data right now. And there's so many tools out there that know how to parse and use that JSON information. Climate change is real. Things have changed, right? The web came on. We're late to get on the web. You know, we're using Lotus script and formula to build websites. Everyone else is doing other things. Mobile apps came out. Now we have Nomad, but we're still building with Lotus script and formula. And we didn't open up our REST APIs to integrate with other ecosystems. So I think we should have a Domino project that says, I want this download of Domino to be a NoSQL storage solution. I just started and I don't have to worry about setting up anything. It's NoSQL storage. That's what I'm using it for. It has a REST API. I could talk to it. There's a couple of sample projects. Maybe I want a notes client app, right? So then I want to be able to download notes with Nomad support, or I want a Domino Node.js. I don't want to worry about what an app dev pack can keep track of that. Why do I want to do that? I'm building business solutions. I don't want to keep track of those things. So it would be nice if they were Domino projects, packages for a purpose, Domino server for X pages, right? All the security set up, the document, server document allows X pages to run, default ACL to allow anonymous or the developer to be able to run X pages. So all those little things that could trip you up. Also a free download, super simple. I don't want to depend on a business partner to get Domino up and running for a purpose. I want Docker images for those different packages. Yet last night I installed Mongo after I watched the React.js presentation. I'm like, okay, let's see how that works. Well, for a Mongo server that saves JSON documents, you do brew install Mongo and you start Mongo. I then added it to my project. I'm able to save the same project I'm working in. I have also Mongo being saved. I did it in a couple hours. And I never worked with Mongo before in my life. So that's where I want to be. I want to get to my solution. I don't want to worry about quirks in the product. We need Hibernate ORM adapters. There's .NET Core. We need a community version of Domino. And I think App Dev Pack should be just part of the product release. So that's my feedback, because customers are not waiting for App Dev Pack to be finished. We need solutions now. We need to adopt and plan budgets for working and building solutions for tomorrow. So we can't wait. Thank you. Any questions? What did you think?
I thought it was pretty interesting.
Well, it's outside the yellow sphere a little bit. So if I have a couple of seconds, just want to show you a couple other things. So you like the Pojo thing, right? Here's Spring Initializer. Watch this. I want a NoSQL database here. It's already built, right?
Yep. So you have 1 minute.
Yeah.
Look at Neo4j, Redis, React, Mongo, Reactive, all of these couch database. It's ready to go. The framework already figured out how to work with this stuff. SonarQube, you want quality? SonarQube scans your applications and tells you how much code coverage you have in unit tests, who's doing what, security breaches in your code. App Dynamics uses that endpoint for application performance. Look at this. All of this nice stuff and alarms against your microservices. It's really, really cool. So there's a whole ecosystem built around this stuff. All right, so way outside, not really, X Pages was as well, I think. And a lot of people didn't adopt X Pages. Maybe that's what happened to X pages. But I think we'll see the same thing with React.js. If we're working in Domino nomads, your brain works different when you work with Java objects in software engineering. And then when you work in a framework like Domino with views and forms, you're not going to get to React.js and any of that. That's just my feeling. It's going to be like or like DAS, REST API. They started it, it ran for a little while, but then it died because who's accessing Domino externally? So I'll start with Spring Boot with the Spring Initializer. I think in
we
my
have
previous,
we have to end your session.
okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Udemy, Pluralsight, YouTube, all of it's there.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
You have to end the session.
Okay. See you guys.
Thanks.
Good luck.
Okay, thanks. Hello.